Hello there, guys, and welcome to your review show of the UEFA Champions League group stage draw 2019-20. And boy, there are some good groups in here, guys. I'm going to be going through each one of them, each club, giving you my opinion on who'll be going through, who might have a tough time making the last 16 as a big club, and who maybe some of the underdogs might be, and possibly even a few early tips for who might win the competition, guys. But I'll try and help you know a bit more maybe about the smaller clubs in the draw also. And yeah, let's get on to it. So Group A, guys, is probably got one of the easiest in terms of predicting who's going to qualify, but also got a couple of interesting clubs in there, and one in particular, in my view, who shouldn't be underestimated. So in this group, we got Paris Saint-Germain, the champions of France for the second successive year under Thomas Tuchel. Dangerous looking side, likely to lose Neymar, but all in all, you know, always going to be one of the contenders for the Champions League crown, even though they haven't reached past the quarterfinal since 2013-14 when the real money urge came into Paris Saint-Germain. Next, you got Real Madrid, obviously back under Zinedine Zidane, who won it for them the 3 consecutive seasons prior to last. And obviously, having had a bit of a spending spree, they now got Luka Jovic, Hazard, Ferland Mendy, also Eder Militao. And they're looking to basically rebuild. There's obviously some tension in that squad with Gareth Bale, obviously not in Zidane's favours, but obviously Zidane's had to commit to using him for the fact they can't get rid of Bale. But it's a tough situation. Stories that Zidane is considering resigning, but of course, you would expect Madrid to be amongst the contenders. Obviously, probably the strongest club within Pot 2 this season. And they were tied, as they were a few years ago in the group stage and also in the round of 16, I think 2 years ago, with Paris Saint-Germain. Into Pot 3 in this Group A came Club Bruges. Club which actually I think doesn't get the respect it deserves for its performances in European competition over the last few years. They played Man United in the Champions League playoff in 2015. They've made Europa League group stages, I think, last maybe 2 seasons ago. But they made Champions League groups in 2016-17 and also last season. So they're definitely not a club to be underestimated. They came second in the Belgian Pro League last season and have poached the manager Philippe Clement from Genk, who were also in this draw, who won the Belgian Pro League. But they're not a club to be underestimated. I think PSG and Real will have to be on best form coming to Bruges. But I don't think really they'll contend with the two for qualification, maybe. But still, it would be interesting to see whether they prove a banana skin for the top 2. And out of Pot 4 came probably the toughest club outside of maybe Leipzig and Lille from Pot 4, being Galatasaray, under legendary Turkish manager Fatih Terim, who's had 2 stints with Galatasaray, I think maybe even 3, 2 stints in charge of the Turkish national team, taking them to Euro 96, and I think they're going to be a real dark horse here. I think if PSG and Real Madrid maybe slip up or aren't on best form, I really do think Galatasaray, particularly if they take maximum points off Club Bruges, could be a real dark horse to get, maybe cause a group stage upset. They've always had a sort of strong side of maybe older European players, Wesley Sneijder, Didier Drogba in the past being at Galatasaray. And while I can't claim to follow the Turkish league that well, I think we would all be fools to suggest that Galatasaray will be dropping out of European football after Christmas. I would probably expect them, if they don't qualify, to take the 3rd place Europa League spot. And I think they really could be lurking around European competition come February, March, depending on how they play. So All in all, Group A, I would expect Paris Saint-Germain and Real Madrid to go through, but I'm not counting any chickens. And an early call from me, watch out for Galatasaray. Do not be at all surprised if they make the last 16. The draw, obviously, just after match day 6. You see them in there, I've told you first. Don't be surprised. So, on to Group B, and we've got Bayern Munich, the champions of Germany, coming straight out under Niko Kovac. Transitional season, I would say, last season, coming, second in the German Cup, losing, I believe, to Eintracht Frankfurt. Or maybe that was the season before, but I don't believe they won the German Cup. Do correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Maybe they did. But they definitely got knocked out by Liverpool at the round of 16 in the Champions League. They've strengthened somewhat. They've obviously got Gnabry in. I know, again, that was a couple of years ago, but he'll be really coming to the fore, I believe. They've also brought in Philippe Coutinho on loan from Barcelona. And I think with Bayern, again, you maybe wouldn't say this is a vintage Bayern side. It's not the Bayern side that won the Champions League in 2013 under Jupp Heynckes. You wouldn't really say it would be competing with the side under Pep Guardiola, which got knocked out in the semis 3 years running. But you'd be fools to write them off. You really would. And second out of the pots were last year's finalists, Tottenham Hotspur. Not a favourite club of mine, but you've got to say they are beginning to gather some European pedigree, having made a final, obviously making the knockout stages for the first time since 2010, the year before, getting knocked out by Juventus. But they've had their experience in European competition, knocking Dortmund out last season, Ajax, Man City. And again, I'd probably say they're geared to get out of this group unless they undergo a real slump this season under Poch. I know their league form's a bit patchy, but I would expect them to get out of this group, considering the last two teams in it. Then, out of pot 3 came the Greek runners-up Olympiacos, always in and around that draw, occasionally sort of causing some problems for the big clubs, but didn't win the Greek league last year, and I wouldn't say it's a team that the big boys really have to be careful of this season. I believe they have a new manager as well. And for me, if you're not winning the Greek league, you're going to struggle in the Champions League. And obviously, it wouldn't matter if it was PAOK Salonika or obviously Panathinaikos. Obviously, Olympiacos have played a lot of group stage football, so they do have the know-how, but I really don't rate them to make an upset this season. And fourth team out of the pot was Red Star Belgrade last year, obviously beating the eventual champions in Belgrade 2-0. And again, they're one of those clubs which Bayern and Tottenham, when they travel to Belgrade, will be frightened of, because at home the atmosphere is terrifying and they will be intimidated. It's that sort of place. There'll be flares, there'll be fireworks. It's a team who really use that to energise themselves. The place I'd see Red Star falling short would be all the away ties. I can't see them even picking up a point away from home, unless maybe at Olympiacos they can steal something. But all in all, they'd be good shots to probably come third in this group, come out the Europa League. Out of Bayern or Tottenham, it'll be a tight race for who wins it, in my opinion. I'd say probably borderline Bayern, but you never know. Tottenham against the big boys in Europe seem to spring out a surprise every year, drawing at the Nou Camp last year, winning against Real Madrid the year before that. So it'll be a tight race. I can't call who's going to win the group, but what I can say is I'm 99% sure it will be Bayern and Tottenham in that round of 16 draw. On to Group C, and the English champions Man City come out. Not much I need to say about him, because obviously all the viewers in this show will be watching Pep Guardiola's Man City week in, week out. Interesting team to watch. And yet again, I think either the third successive season, maybe it was only a couple of years ago, they were tied against Shakhtar Donetsk. Obviously, no longer with the manager Paolo Fonseca, aka Zorro Man, which he put on after beating City at the Etihad a couple of seasons ago. Still Ukrainian champions though, and still a banana skin, but I would say probably no more than that. I'm not sure they're going to win the group this season because I think the team that came out of pot four are going to be really, really dangerous. And another one I wouldn't underestimate. And a dark horse I'm calling early. So I'll move straight to pot four this group, and Atalanta, under Gianpiero Gasperini, came fourth in the Serie A last season, and I think they're going to be a real contender to be in that last 16 draw. They play a really tight 3-4-1-2. They've got a couple of good centre halves, but most importantly, Mario Pasalic. He is on loan from Chelsea, but he links up the play really nicely. They've got Rafael Toloi, I believe he's still there, who's been a linchpin in that Gasperini team. And I think Gasperini's known in Italy as being a manager who sticks to a tactical system, but is also pragmatic. And I think he's the sort of manager that Pep will really respect, because he's taken Atalanta from real mid-table obscurity in Serie A to Europa League the last couple of seasons, and then Champions League this season, beating the likes of Roma and AC Milan to that group stage. And I really see them coming out of the group and possibly even troubling one of the big boys in the round of 16, because I think they're going to be criminally underrated. I could even see them definitely drawing against City in the Tricolore in Italy. But, you know, they could flop, but I really don't think they will. I think they will pip Shakhtar to second in the group. And the fourth club in this group, who were actually pot three, surprisingly, are Dinamo Zagreb, the Croatian champions. Solid side, and the fact they're in pot three shows their European pedigree over the last few seasons. I think mainly in terms of knockout football in the Europa League, but they've been playing Champions League group football for several years now. They've obviously played some knockout football in the Europa League. And will they possibly pit one of these clubs at home? I think absolutely certainly. I think they could definitely beat either Shakhtar or Atalanta at home. But I can't see them getting more than about 5 points in this group, because I think the other three clubs are a lot more dangerous than them. But in this group, I'm calling Man City and Atalanta to get out, and Shakhtar to make Europa League football, all in that order. But I think this group's more entertaining than probably a lot of the pundits will say, because I think it'll be a really nice tight battle for second. But don't underestimate Atalanta, please, I warned you. And from Italian club to Italian club, we go to Group D, where Juventus were the first team out, under ex-Chelsea manager Maurizio Sarri. Of course, this is interesting. Sarri's not been in the dugout, obviously, the last couple of games with illness. But he's obviously got a world-class squad. He's got Ronaldo. You know, you're always in the Champions League with him. You've got so much talent. You've got Pjanic in there. Even Mandzukic still dotting about. And I think they're definitely getting out of the group. Sarri, it'll be interesting to see Sarri try Sarri ball with the 4-3-3 and with a squad that, without disrespect to my own club Chelsea, probably do have slightly more quality in it. But next is a team they beat in the round of 16 last season. And with a Cristiano Ronaldo hat-trick, it was Atletico Madrid that succumbed. They've been drawn again with Juventus this year. And Simeone teams you can never underestimate. They've made, and it's an interesting stat, credit to my good friend Ian who gave this to me, Simeone teams have made European finals in even years, so 2018, 2016, 2014, and 2012, all under Simeone for the last sort of 8 years. So history dictates that Atletico are going to make a major European final this season, either Champions League or Europa League. And it's going to be another one of those groups that may be a little bit top heavy, but I think will be a really entertaining battle between those two in the two games. But without counting my chickens, I'm going to go to Bayer Leverkusen, who came out of the pot third. Under exciting ex-Ajax manager Peter Bosch. And he is a manager, he had a bad stint at Dortmund, but I think Leverkusen are really coming good under him. They've got a squad of quality players, obviously Leon Bailey shouting out as the main one, but Bayer Leverkusen are going to be another dark horse in this group. If Juve and Atletico succumb in their banana skins, maybe don't beat Bayer at home, or don't beat the fourth club, Lokomotiv Moscow, maybe away from home, Bayer Leverkusen, I believe, will be there to step up and capitalise. Whether I think they're going to pit one of the two sort of heavyweights, it's going to be tough. I think probably not, but they're definitely making Europa League as far as I'm concerned. And there's half a chance they'll be in with a shout come match day 6 of making that last 16 draw. The last club, as I was mentioning, second in the Russian Premier League last season, Lokomotiv Moscow. It's an interesting one. They haven't got really anyone of note, and there aren't a team I follow a great deal. But with Russian clubs, they're always solid at home, and it's never easy. A sort of major European team will never go to Russia and win 4-5, 6-0. It very rarely happens. And again, it's one of those a bit like Red Star. I think they might pick up a point or two, or maybe even a win at home, but I can't see them beating or even drawing with Juventus, Madrid, or Leverkusen away from home. So, with regards to this group, I think it goes pretty much as seeding dictates. Juve will probably win it. Atletico probably coming runners-up, unless Bayer Leverkusen can spring a surprise. But I expect those three clubs to be in and around European competition late on this year. So this will be an interesting test of their credentials. So I'm going to enjoy watching Group D this season. On to Group E, and we move to Liverpool, obviously the champions, drawn out first. Champions of Europe rather than any national association. Second in the Premier League by a single point last season. But they again have been drawn with Serie A runners-up Napoli for a second season in a row in the group phase. Obviously, Napoli were pot 3 last year, so Liverpool and Napoli had to contend with PSG last season, but they've got, I suppose, a considerably easier sort of other two clubs this year. But Napoli are going to be dangerous. They've just signed Hirving Lozano from PSV, and Carlo Ancelotti teams, much like, I know, a Simeone team, you can never rule them out, you know. A Napoli run to the semi-finals really would not surprise me at all. And I would say, obviously, Napoli are unlikely to win the group. Liverpool are a really good side. Jurgen Klopp knows what he's doing in Europe. He's shown that. Another fun fact for you guys, Klopp's never lost a two-legged tie during his stint at Liverpool in Europe. You can check that, but I'm right. Sorry, guys. And I think Naples, they've obviously brought in Kostas Manolas from Roma. That's going to really solidify their defence. They've got Manolas and Kalidou Koulibaly. And I am convinced that those two will be in the round of 16 draw. Third seed comes Red Bull Salzburg, RB Salzburg, or even FC Salzburg, given the draw. Under American manager Jesse Marsh, I believe, and please call me out if I'm wrong here, it's the first team to make the Champions League group stage managed by an American. I believe he's a German-American, but he's American nonetheless. So that's a little piece of history. And Salzburg, again, have had pedigree in Europe. They made the Europa League semi-finals 2 years ago. They've been in the Europa League, I believe, quarter-finals last season. They know what they're doing with regards to getting out of groups, be it into the Europa League, Champions League knockout phase. So I think they will return to the competition they've thrived in recently, the Europa League, but they'll definitely give Liverpool and Napoli a run for their money, and it wouldn't surprise me if they beat one of those two in Salzburg, but I can't see them putting up a run of form to probably get through both of them or get above one of them. So they'll be in the Europa League come January, in my view. And then fourth is another champion association. It's FC Genk, champions of Belgium. They've had their manager poached by Club Brugge, but they've been in Europe quite a few times. They were in Chelsea's group the year we won it. And I remember they played Ghent in a Europa League knockout draw in 2017. But again, I can't see them picking up any points apart from at home. Maybe their games against Salzburg will be very entertaining. But I can see this group going Liverpool, Napoli, Salzburg, Genk. Sorry, Genk fans. It'll be another one. I think you will play good football and you will have some success at home, but not enough to make Europa League. So on to Group F, guys. Nearing the end now. Only 3 more groups. And Barcelona top it under Ernesto Valverde. Obviously been knocked out of the semi-final last season. The most remarkable comeback by Klopp's Liverpool. 3-0 to 4-0 to 4-3 in that tie. Barcelona probably not unlucky. I don't think they were unlucky in that Anfield game, but tough to miss out on a Champions League final, being 3-0 up going into the second leg. But they've obviously got Lionel Messi, so again, you can't ever write off a club with Messi. Second in the seeding is Borussia Dortmund under Lucien Favre, another one of Europe's, I'd say, most exciting managers, and with some of the most exciting players, Royce, Sancho, Alcacer, and they're a team that's been tough to crack because in the Europa League, not Europa League, in the Bundesliga, they played some delicious football. I suppose delicious is the best way of saying it. People come and watch Dortmund on YouTube, lots of their clips on the BBC because of Sancho. And the football's delightful. They'll beat lower Bundesliga teams 5-6-1. And it was disappointing to see them fold so easily to Tottenham last year, but I think they will come back strong this year. They'll put up a stronger fight in the Bundesliga against Bayern. I think they're definitely within an outside chance of winning it if they can be more consistent. But this group for me is a group of death, and this is why. Third seed, Antonio Conte's Inter Milan. In the Champions League for the second season running, but this year with a much better tactician than Luciano Spalletti, Antonio Conte. He's a manager I know a lot about. I don't respect a lot of the work he did at Chelsea, purely for the disrespect he gave to us. But it can't be denied that the man is a genius. He got Chelsea past Simeone's Atletico Madrid, one of the toughest blocks to get through. He showed the world how to play Valverde in that 1-1 draw against Barcelona in January 2018. And they're really going to put the cat amongst the pigeons in this group. Borussia Dortmund, a good side, but probably not the most pragmatic. And I think Conte will know that, and I think he'll find ways of cracking the Favre equation of that 4-2-3-1, really quick football, really exciting wing play. But it's not all about that. And obviously with Inter bringing in Alexis Sanchez, Romelu Lukaku, they've got class players as well in Skriniar, one of my favourite centre-backs in the game. This team is going to be dangerous. I could easily see them making a quarter-final, if not even semi-final of the competition. And I'm going to wait to do the review of this group till after I've done the last team. Another one I think will be chronically underrated. And that team is Slavia Prague. And Slavia Prague are Europa League quarter-finalists last season. Chelsea stumbled past them, 5-3 on aggregate. And they've had some more European experience and pedigree. So they really could put the cat amongst the pigeons and get 3 points or a draw against Barca, Dortmund, Inter Milan. It really, really would not surprise me if they come to the Eden Arena in Prague and lose. So This group for me is a group of death because you've got the Spanish champions, you've got a really exciting Dortmund team with some of Europe's top attacking players, you've got Inter Milan under one of the best tactical managers in Europe, and you've got an up-and-coming Slavia Prague team who, you know, they got to the final stages of the Europa League last season. So this group, for me, Group F is the best group in the tournament in terms of excitement and quality that there is. But regardless, I'm going to call it. I'm going to say that Barcelona will probably win the group just through experience and ability. But Inter Milan are definitely making second. I cannot see Inter Milan not qualifying. So, sorry, it's going to be Dortmund in the Europa League again this season. I could see them making a run for possibly winning it, but what I can't see is Barcelona or Inter Milan not going through. I would actually say, and this could be me being very, very, very odd, that actually it's more likely that Inter Milan go through than Barcelona. I'm more convinced Inter Milan are making it than I am that Barcelona will make it. If Dortmund are going to make the round of 16 draw in December, I think it's more likely to be at the expense of Barcelona than at the expense of Inter Milan. That's my call. Please quote me. It could be horribly wrong. Group G, you've got probably the weakest group in the tournament, but also interesting in other ways. You've got Zenit St. Petersburg, the Russian champions, at the top of it. Tough team, always tough to go to Russia. Under a new manager, they've got Malcolm, one of Barcelona's attackers. So, again, the weakest pot 1 team by a long way, but by no means a write-off for that draw. You then got Benfica, who have had a curious case, used to always make it to the knockout stages. A team I'd have a lot of respect for, always being there or thereabouts, but this time, maybe not. Just like the last 2 years, where they lost very heavily in Man United's group 2 years ago. Can't remember exactly who was in their group last time, but I know they did drop to the Europa League. And then they lost to Eintracht Frankfurt. So we'll have to see, guys. It'll be interesting. And then third team in the group is Lyon, minus Bruno Genesio, their manager that's got them into being a really exciting team. Losing, obviously, their best player, Nabil Fekir, but regardless, they've got 3 excellent attacking players in Bertrand Traore, formerly of Chelsea. They've got Memphis Depay. They've got also, defensively, they've got Jason Denayer. They used to have Ferland Mendy, but I think they have got a suitable replacement. And they're a typical sort of French team. They're getting the best of talent, possibly from lower down in Liga, and really transforming them into a top side. So I definitely expect to see them in the round of 16. And the final club, probably the best pot 4 club, being RB Leipzig under Julian Nagelsmann. Probably one of my favourite managers in Europe. Probably a very cliched thing to say. Very young man, I think 32. And he's taken over, a long-awaited takeover. We knew about him joining Leipzig a year ago. And with clearly a decent transfer Arsenal, he's got obviously an excellent centre-back in Upamecano. They've got also Ethan Ampadu come in from Chelsea. Not that he's played a great deal this season, but that's testament to the strength of this squad. I expect them to be third in the Bundesliga again this season and definitely competing for their first ever appearance in the knockout stage of the Champions League. I know they were in the group stage 2 seasons ago, didn't quite make it last year, played Europa League instead. So this group's got 4 really evenly matched teams in Zenit, Benfica, Lyon and Leipzig. And any 4, you can make a case for any 4 making it through, to be honest. The group with the Russian champions is always the most wide open, unless the big boys in there. And this is probably, I'd say, the weakest pot 1 side, the weakest pot 2 side, and then the strongest pot 3 side and the strongest pot 4 side. So it's a really even group. If you want my opinion, actually, I think it'll be Lyon topping the group and it'll be Leipzig coming second, just. But this is the toughest group to predict for me, and I'm not going to say that with any sort of certainty. On to Group H, the final group, guys. I know this is a long video, but hopefully I've given you some good information. It's my club, Chelsea, in pot 1 being Europa League champions, the return where I believe to where we belong. And, you know, I've spoken enough about Chelsea on this channel, but under Frank Lampard, I'm just happy to see a legend running the club and seemingly the board on the same level as the manager. Always happy, so long may it continue, guys. A lot of youth. And our Pot 2 team is another team with so much youth potential. And last season's Champions League semi-finalists, Ajax. Under Erik ten Hag, he's a great coach. And obviously, having lost some of his bigger names, obviously De Ligt, and also Frankie de Jong to Barcelona, it's hard. It's hard to see how they're going to be stronger this year than last. I was speaking to a fan at work this afternoon. He says they've reached their peak last season. They're not going to compete again this year. And I can see the merit to that argument completely. Do I think they'll make the knockout stage? Probably, yes. They've got a good manager. They've got now the experience. They've still got players like David Neres, Donny van der Beek. And I think the two games between Chelsea and Ajax will be quite special, really, because it's two clubs led by legends of their domestic league, obviously in Lampard and Ten Hag, and with loads and loads of youth potential. And it's what we want to see, the greats of tomorrow facing up on Europe's top table. So that'll be interesting. Third in the group, and it's another team with a bit of sort of a specialness to me, it's FC Valencia. Valencia CF, to be more precise. Back in the Champions League for a second successive season under former centre-back Marcelinho. They play a really solid 4-4-2 and they're Copa del Rey winners as well, so they know how to handle the pressure of knockout competition and also beating heavyweights. You know, they beat Barcelona in the final. I was there when they won the semi-final, by the way, against Betis. One of the best football experiences of my life. One of the best crowds of my life. A great club all round. And as much as I really wanted to really back them this season, they're in the same group as my club, so I can't really. As much as I don't obviously want them to beat Chelsea or prevent us from going through, they'd probably be my pick to go through out of second because I like them. And the fourth seed here is Lille Metropole, managed by Jean-Christophe Gaultier, who also took Saint-Etienne to a Europa League tie against Man United, which was very narrowly won by Mourinho's men in 2017. And they're a team that I know they came third rather, in the French league last season, but they've lost their biggest asset, obviously Nicolas Pepe, to Arsenal. But I do think that a lot of French clubs are more than the sum of their parts. Gaultier showed that with Saint-Etienne, taking them far. And this is another group where, and I'd love to say that Chelsea will walk it. I don't think we will. I think it's one of those groups where I'm thinking either Chelsea will be fine and there'll be a fist fight between the other three for second. But obviously that's a bit disrespectful thing to say about Ajax, it could well be a straight fight between Chelsea and Ajax. But knowing this is one of those groups where there's four clubs that could beat any of the other on any day, at home or indeed away from home, I wouldn't be surprised to see, say, Lille winning at Chelsea, or Ajax winning at Valencia, or Chelsea winning at Ajax. So it's another really tough one to call. I'd say it's one of the most interesting football groups. Again, you've got youth potential in Ajax. You've got a really entertaining, interesting manager in Marcelinho for Valencia. Guedes, one of my favourite players, does indeed, I believe, still play for Valencia. And then Lille, a team looking to rebuild following the departure of Pepe, obviously bringing through Eden Hazard, who went on to play for Chelsea, and his younger brothers. So, if you want me to call teams to go through in this one, I'll say Chelsea and Ajax, but I could see Valencia in there. As I say, it's another one I'd say Valencia if they are going to qualify, more likely to be at the expense of Ajax than at the expense of Chelsea, just because I think Lampard's been there, done it before. And while you can argue a lot of the Ajax players have, their results in the knockout stages last year, losing a lot of their home games, relying on heroic performances in the away legs, didn't always help. And I think in a group phase, you don't want to risk losing your home games and relying on away performances. It's not as easy as, in some ways, knockout football is so much more simple. And that's what I think really suited Ajax last season. They were able to go all guns blazing with not a lot to lose. They've got a hell of a lot more to lose this season. So that concludes my group stage review, guys. Let me know in the comments which group you find the most interesting or entertaining. Do you agree with any of my predictions? Disagree with them? Please let me know. But all in all, I hope you've learned something from the video. Maybe just enjoyed the analysis. But anyway, guys, I'm going to sign off now. It's late where I am. Done a lot of work today, but so excited to see Chelsea back in the Champions League. Not going to lie. See you soon, guys, and up the Chels.